She has conducted numerous counseling sessions and career-related workshops to help students and their parents plan and prepare for a meaningful future. She also has experience in counseling youths who have had aberrations with the law, gained during her internship at the Youth Training Center in Arouca, Trinidad. Lorrien believes in lifelong learning and continues research to improve her skills in the area of grief counseling and multicultural counseling, which is pertinent to the diverse culture found in Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight, our special guest, welcome Mrs. Lorrien Joseph.
Thank you very much for that welcome, and it's nice to be back. I think the last time I was here may have been in June, so that's a long time ago. But I'm delighted to be here. The last time we talked about mental health for men and boys, and so today, October is Mental Health Month, and we also want to take some time to talk about marriage. It's one of those relationships we hardly talk about, and I'll give you a reason for I'll give one of the reasons among many as to why I chose this topic today. So let's see how we get with what we have here today. So we're talking about marriage wellness. What exactly is marriage wellness? It's a form of relational wellness that recognizes the importance of nurturing positive marital relationships by setting healthy boundaries that creates a sense of safety and security for both persons. And Gottman talks about maintaining individuality isn't about loving your partner less, because sometimes people think that when they get married, you lose who you are. But it's about staying whole as you grow together, and the healthiest relationship protects both the me and the we in marriage. Why marriage wellness is important, and in this time I'm going to give one of the reasons I chose this topic. It impacts our personal health. So if your marriage is not going good and you're stressed, then you know how your health is not going to be the best. It also builds resilience, and in relationships, when you have challenges, couples who work together and have good wellness in their marriage tend to bond together and they develop resilience. So they're not easy to say, packing up and going, right? And the second thing is that it prevents problems. So if you start to sort out the little issues you have early and daily, it will prevent those major problems. And it creates happiness and harmony in the relationship. And it lessens grey divorce. So about a month or two ago, I was reading an article in Psychology Today talking about grey divorce, and I'm like, okay, let's regroup. What was that? And it's really okay. I'll define it and I'll tell you why. If you've been following the news, you'll realize that there's so many persons who have been married for a long time, like say 40, 50 years, and you're like, they say they want to divorce, or they are divorced, or they're married 18 years and over. So a great divorce are persons who have been in decades marriages, so they're perhaps about 50 to 65 years old, and they decide now after marriage, 40-something years, they decide, oh, well, this is not for me, and for many reasons. You have empty nesters, and those women are more likely to choose it, about 60% of women. And they are saying the reason is because they can now choose divorce. Before that, it was a no-no, and they like spontaneity in the relationship, among other reasons. But so I was like, somehow I got the impression that when you got married and you're married for 40 and 50, you're gonna stay together. I didn't think, you're gonna be like not being married anymore. So that kind of caught me off guard somewhat, because I'm thinking, after so long, why would you now? And so I want to suggest to us, and some of the reasons given were some people were feeling ashamed before, so they wouldn't say. So they were pretending to be happy in a marriage. So what we also want to say tonight is that wellness in marriage is not based on longevity, but longevity impacts your wellness. So if you're happy in your marriage, you're more likely to stay in it, but being long in it doesn't mean you're happy. So I want to suggest tonight, that's the reason I really talked about marriage wellness tonight. So some components of marital wellness. One is strong communication. And if you've been a counselor most times, or probably 99% of the time when I have couples, and they ask them, so what's the reason you're here today? And they will say something like, communication problem. And that's what they will say. And so we want to talk some more about that. I'm going to read a little snippet from a writer in a little bit. But it is more, what is communication? It is more than conversation. You know, sometimes you could be talking, you're not looking at the person, but you're in the kitchen and everybody talking. But it's more than conversation. It involves active listening. And there is a SOLER, and people, if you look at the photograph, you will see that the couple are doing exactly what SOLER means, which is they're sitting squarely facing each other, that's the S. Open posture. L is a leaning forward, showing interest in the conversation. So sometimes spouses are talking and somebody is doing something else. But if you're going to experience strong communication, you need to be attentive. And the E is for eye contact. So you can be talking to somebody and you're washing the dishes and they're in the couch sitting watching TV. That's not meaningful conversation. And then the R is to be relaxed. So there's no fuss about it, so you're comfortable with having that conversation. And important for us to have a good timing. So if your spouse just came home from work to the door and you see them hanging and dragging, it's not the time to talk about the children and all the issues that went on to the day. You find the best time possible. And then we express our feelings and needs openly and honestly. I have a saying I use with clients, and probably my husband and I will say that neither of us are prophets, so we don't know what's going on in your mind and what you're thinking. We are Christians and stuff, but we are not prophets to be able to read and spell what's going on in your mind. You need to say openly and honestly. And use of I statements will reduce and avoid blame. You always do this, you always. Most times we hear that. But the best way to say something is, I do not like this. I am thinking this is so, so it's all about you. Because when you focus on I, the other person doesn't need to feel you're attacking them and be on the defensive. They're more likely to listen to what it is you're saying. And that will, if you avoid blame, everybody's happy about that because you're no longer going to be on the defensive. And the next one says is to seek understanding. And I want to pause a little bit because I want to read something about seeking understanding. So, like I said before, most times clients come and they say, oh, we're here because we have communication problem. And the writer, who I'm going to pay attention to in a bit, okay, he's not having some technical challenges here, but it's okay. But what Proverbs chapter 2 talks about seeking understanding, you're to search for it like you search for silver and gold. So if you're talking with someone and you think they do not understand what you're saying, and most times are what people say, because we're always communicating, whether we're silent or we say something, didn't say it, move something, didn't move it, we are always communicating, verbal and non-verbal. So it's not just the words somebody says, but it's understanding what is your spouse's love language, how do they communicate what's going on with them, and that's what you need to find out. And so that's why we are suggesting it's not just I have a communication problem really, but it is seeking understanding. What is your spouse saying to you at this time? And the second thing is that we need to apologize. So the number 5th thing or 6th thing, apologize. This is something most people don't really know how to say. I am sorry, or they think they're too big enough to say that. But that's an important, powerful word, I am sorry. As important as I love you, the other 3-letter word, that sentence that we have. So it's important for us to apologize when we would have offended someone, and then to express gratitude. Many times we focus on what's wrong in a relationship, but saying, I am so happy or I'm grateful for this, I am so happy the day I got married to you, or something like that, but express gratitude. I appreciate that you did this for me, that you made me a cup of tea, and so on. So that's important for us in communicating marital wellness. Then the other component is emotional support, where both partners feel loved, respected, and supported, especially during difficult times. And we know this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's also a difficult time for couples and families to deal with family members who are experiencing this. So that's important for us to support them during those difficult times, that they're loved and special. And then the other part is to be emotionally available. You know, sometimes in conflict we have these conversations, somebody just walk out, shut down, not available for you to say and support this person at this time. This is not the time for that, especially in those difficult times, is to be able to communicate what's happening with you. If you're upset, please say so and say, okay, this is not a good time for me right now, so give me a few minutes, let me catch my breath or something like that. But don't just shut down on somebody and we don't know. Many couples, and I'm not going to call any names, or persons who think that the silent treatment is a way to go. So we have this person thinking that this is not working well for me, and that's important for us to know, that we need to be able to say to someone, I do not like this, I do not appreciate it. But being silent is also communicating something, and it sometimes is us trying to hold power in our side of defense, so that the other person feels like, okay, so what's going on? What it is I have to give in now for this person to talk back to me and stuff like that. So we don't need to do those kinds of power grab and make people feel badly about the choices they make. The next one is conflict resolution. This is one of those ones that many people struggle with, and they're like, oh gosh, I don't know, we always have problems, we always have issues. But having a problem in a relationship is not a problem, actually. It's how we are going to deal with the issues that we face is what we need to know. And it's important for us to know the how, and most people do not know how to do that. So one is to navigate disagreements calmly. And another important thing is most couples do not know how we are going to engage in this conflict resolution. What rules do we have? What are some things or boundaries that we are setting in this relationship? When we are talking about an issue, we're not going to talk about the things that happened in the past. You know, last week they said so and so. No, we are going to say, listen, we are going to pay attention to the issue at hand. We're not going to call any names. If we are upset, we're going to say. If we want time out, we're going to do those things. So it's important for couples to determine beforehand the rules of engagement, and that's important. And the next one is to avoid calling names and emotional blackmail. Focus on solutions, and it's important to express forgiveness if we think we have offended someone. And the important thing is to connect. If you look at this slide, it says, beneath most arguments is a quiet plea to be chosen, to be considered, to be understood or accepted. So sometimes that's all somebody's looking for. Is not to solve the problem, it's to say, I had a view. Was I chosen? Was I considered? Am I understood or accepted? What sounds like conflict is really often a cry for connection, connecting with my spouse. So, you know, when you have conflict, you're trying to run away from it, but when you engage in it, the person is really trying to say, I want to be heard, I want to be listened to, I want to feel that I'm a part of this relationship and I have a contribution to make. So that's important for us to remember, that when we have conflict, somebody's really looking for connection. And conflict can cause us not to feel connection and want to connect with the other person because they're upsetting us. All right? Mutual respect and support. That's important for us to remember, that while we're individuals, we have some personal goals that we may have, and we also have shared goals. So we are not in a relationship where only what he wants to do happens or what she wants to do happens, but each person gets a chance to achieve his or her goal. And then there are some goals we share as a couple that we do together. And another part of mutual support and respect is quality time. And this is a big thing. Most people think, okay, if I'm home and I'm watching TV or I'm playing a game on my phone, I am present. No, that's not quality time. That's an important piece. You're just in the same room, but you're not communicating. Very often you go to restaurants and you see families sitting around the table. Oh boy, each person is on his or her phone and nobody is really talking to anybody. So all the phones doing all the conversations and everybody's on their own beat and nobody else is, right? So it's important for us to remember that we need to connect. Then there's a 7-7-7 rule, and I'm going to explain what that is, but we can make adjustments to suit ourselves. This is the way the writers convince themselves that if a couple takes every 7 days to go on a date or do something together, and then every 7 weeks we can do something away from the children and everybody else, and every 7th month we go on a little getaway, no children around or involved. Now some people say, oh Lord, that's a lot. But if you're going to enjoy wellness in your marriage and keep the fire burning like a top-up, so ever so often your phone died and to go top up, well, right, so marriages and relationship needs to be topped up. And we can't wait until something goes wrong and we're now running by the counselor and saying this is what we need to do. If you listen to a lot of couples, they will say, well, we don't spend time together. He don't take me out. When we were dating, oh boy, he took me places, we did this together. When you get married now, it is still to continue in a similar vein. It doesn't have to be the same thing. And it's important to remember that it doesn't have to be an expensive getaway and so on. It could just be a ride down Sando, buy a little ice cream, walk, hold hands and lick. That is if that's something you want to do. Or just park your car, sit and chat and what. But it's just the two of you, no phone involved, nobody calling you, and you stop to say, hold on there, let me see who. No. It's a time for just both of you. Alright, and the 2-2-2 rule is a similar idea. Every 2 weeks we go on a date, and the other one is every 2 years you could go on a long vacation, and the next 2 is every other 2 months, right? You do something else. But you can make it work for you. So for instance, you could say for 2 hours a day, we want to spend time together, or 2 hours of every 3 days. But the point is to make something that could work for you in terms of your time and availability. But it's important not to say, oh, okay, that is somebody else's view, therefore I can't. Choose what will work for you, can adjust. There's no rule to say you have to do it for 7 days, 7 months and stuff like that. No. The important thing is to ignite the flame of romance in your marriage and make it healthy. If you go back to one of the reasons why people were involved in great divorce after being married for 40-something years, some people say we're just boring, there's no spontaneity. I wouldn't want to spend the rest of my life just sitting down home boring. This man or this woman, she didn't want to do anything. Nah, we want something else. We want spunk or spike, whatever it is they need in the relationship. But it is a reason for someone wanting to move from a 40-something-year-old marriage. So that's important for us to enjoy each other's company and to spend quality time together. All right, so the next one talks about how do we practice marriage wellness. I mean, it's good to talk about it as we should do this and so on. So I'm going to give you a few things and then we'll talk about some in detail. So the first one is regular check-in. In a few minutes, I'll give you a list of questions you could use for that. And the date nights and shared hobbies that we're talking about. One of the things that connects people is having a similar goal or a hobby that helps you to connect. Sometimes, well, back in the day, I used to do stamp collecting and I collect flags. So when my husband goes on a trip, he will bring back a flag from a particular country. He will collect keyrings. So we have something similar in mind. So we have the idea of the world in our space and how we connect with that. So most times my Christmas tree has all these flags. So last year when I have all this turmoil, At the bottom of my tree was peace, and each flag that represented a country in the world was on my Christmas tree, because I was thinking about joy to the world, peace to the world, as God will do for Christmas. So there's something that you connect with, and that for us is something that's important. So you find something that will help you and help your relationship. The next thing is to nurture yourself. Very often we are in relationships and we do everything for the other person and nothing for ourselves. If we are happy with ourselves, if life is going good with ourselves, if we are confident and progressive, it is more likely to have a positive impact on our relationship. So that's one of the ways we practice marital wellness, is to take care of yourself. So self-care, nurture yourself, feel good about yourself. Because the same thing you do for yourself, you're more likely to do for the other person. And then to seek professional help. And of course, I am a team member of Acropolis New Creations Caribbean. And we are located at 101 Circular Road, San Fernando. So that's a place you could go and come and receive help if you want to improve your relationship in your marriage. And now I talked about do the checking in. So I'm going to share about 6 questions that you could use with your partner, that you could use to help you check in. So it's called the relationship and emotional wellness check-in. So there are 6 questions, and they're in 2 parts. So the first part is the relation and emotional wellness check-in. So question is, how are you feeling both emotionally and physically? Because sometimes we just take for granted that our spouses or our partner get up and wake up and they're okay. They're not. You could ask, how are you feeling today? Good? They say yes. How are you feeling? For example, for me, I'm challenged by what just happened in Jamaica with Hurricane Melissa. So my brain and my mind all over the place. So yesterday was like, okay, trying to work on this presentation was quite a bit of a distraction, right? But at some point, we're able to, talk through some of the things I was feeling and able to sit and get focused on to make a presentation for today. And the other question is, what is one way I can support your well-being this week? Because sometimes we have all things going on in our space, but we need help from the other person. So we can ask questions. Remember, asking questions makes us get an answer, but we can't read somebody's mind. So that's why we're asking the question. And the other question is there anything I did this week that made you feel loved? Wow, that's a big question. That's a kind of romantic question for me. It was like, because you're gonna think, and what does that do? You can see this person's eyes start to roll and think, and the kind of oxytocin come to the fore, and you're like, okay, this made me happy mood. I say, yeah, because now you have to be thinking about loved, right? And of course, hopefully, the other person had some good experience and could share that with you. Or is there anything that is still bothering you that we haven't talked about? And that's a good question, because sometimes we hold grudges and we hold something that the person did and we vex about, and we're not telling him or her, right? But asking that question gives them an opportunity to say, yeah, this was something I needed to talk about. So this checking in could be as regularly as you want. It could be a daily checking in, but it shouldn't be something that we don't do. It's an opportunity for us to ask those questions. Because to me, if you answer these questions, I might be losing work, you understand? Because you're gonna need to come by me, and I'm happy with that, because I want you to be happy and work on your relationship and find ways to improve your relationship. So I'm good. God will take care of me. If you work on your peace, I am happy. He will provide for me. And if you practice those things, you don't need to be running by the counselor every time. And so when you go to a counselor, it takes away the opportunity for you to learn to work things out with your spouse without having to spill your dirty laundry all over the place. Not that we are going to tell anybody else, because that's an environment in which we keep confidence in terms of what you share with us. But just having somebody else know about it, yeah, it can be a little challenging. And as we talk about that, you also remember that if you have a challenge, you should agree with your spouse. If you're choosing a third party or a third person to hear some of the issues, that you should both agree on those spaces, right? who we are going to talk with. I know sometimes we talk because we are close to family members, so all our mother know, and sisters know, and brothers know, and then your spouse is like, oh my God, how am I going to go to the family gathering with everybody know about this, right? So that's why it's important for you to work on some of those issues that you may have. All right, so the next set of questions, the next 3 questions are related to future and teamwork wellness check-in. So what activity would you like us to do together soon? That's a good question. What are some ways we can ensure we are working as a team? Because you know, sometimes I like to go to the mall. I don't have to have money, but I just like to walk around and look. When my husband comes with me, I have to make sure he is well fed, and if there are opportunities for chairs for him to sit, I do try to do that as well, to make sure, you know, by the time I walk and sometimes not buying anything but looking, he will come with me, and after a while you can see he's tired, but I'm happy to say, okay, here's a chair here. Or sometimes I choose some of those stores that have seats for men to sit down or family members to sit down, and I could walk around. And so we work with that. So that's good for us to navigate life and learn to do some of the things our spouses like, but we perhaps don't like, but that's how we bond, right? And now, what are some of the ways we can ensure that we're working together as a team? And the other question would be, is there anything you need more of me, you need more of from me, or what should we be working on together? So those are the 6 questions that you could ask. It doesn't have to be in this order, but I just put it in that order. So I like clarity and sanity for my mind, and hopefully for yours too. All right, so those are questions you could ask. If you do not choose to ask the ones that we're talking about future, we could talk about the present relationship that we talked about, the first 3 questions before. All right, so you know, when we do these presentations, there are loads and loads and loads and loads of information out there as to how you can improve your marriage and stuff like that. And so I was like, I don't necessarily want to tell people what to do, sort of. So I was like, how do we? So I'll tell you what I was thinking. So I was thinking, how can we come up with some of the ways we can improve our marriage? And so I was thinking of the 10 commandments for wellness in your marriage. So I use the 10 commandments that we know. I'm not going to say we know it, but as in the scriptures, to create not the 10 commandments that God gave, but to use it as a kind of guide to help me to come up with my own 10 marriage wellness commandments. So although I'm going to share them with you, what I want you to do as a couple is to work on some of the things that you would want to do in your marriage as a commandment, not necessarily a commandment, but something that will guide you in your own relationship. If you want to use what I am presenting, or you want to use the 10 commandments or any other list that you want to, but it's something I want you to work on together to create it, right? So because I'm using what was the 10 commandments before, you may hear some of the language sound similar because I was trying to make it be close to that. So put God first in our marriage. 2, prioritize each other before children, church, job, car, and friends. So you put your spouse first before children and church and so on. I'm not going to say much more about that, but yes, if it asks a lot of couples, they will say, after the child born, I can't find my wife. Right? I'm not going to say much more, right? And he always on work, or cars are by the friend, and linemen and whatever else. But put your spouse first before all those other things that you're excited about. Do not take my love for you in vain or for granted. Remember your wedding day to keep it sacred. Honor our marriage vows so we will have a long and happy married life till death do us part. That is the TDDUP. Do not kill romance in your marriage. Do not commit adultery. That's exactly what that one said in the 10 commandments. Do not steal each other's happiness. Do not speak negatively about each other in public or in private. And do not covet. and we could have a whole list of what you shouldn't covet about, whether about this other party or other relationships or life itself. But that was just my take on it. It's not something my husband participated with me on, so of course I'm going to go back to the drawing board with him and say, okay, this is something I was working on. These are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Ask him to work on it with me too. So we may make some tweaks and changes to that, but that's something, if you could do as a couple, some things that guide you as a couple, things you want to ensure that you agree on. And it becomes a fun thing, and you always hold each other to it, because every time you think about the 10 Commandments, put God first. Do not make any graven images and stuff like that. Do not take the name of the Lord in vain. So you have those things that remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So remember your wedding day to keep it sacred, right? So that's kind of what I was thinking about that. So I want you to do the same for your relationship. And then, marriage wellness is not perfection. There is a Japanese art called kintsugi, which involves repairing broken pottery with lacquer dusted with gold or silver or sometimes platinum. And what they do, instead of throwing away the broken pieces of pottery, as you will see on the screen, they would expose the fractures by viewing them as breakage, as part of the object's history, and making it a unique, beautiful experience. So if you're seeing the bowl on the screen, you realize that it was broken before, but it wasn't thrown away and neglected, and I'm going somewhere with that. So your marriage wellness is not perfection, it's about repairing stuff. So imagine if our own marriages experience marriage wellness kintsugi. Imagine a marriage restored with mutual effort and God's help. So the art of fixing broken pottery with gold, it teaches us to embrace our own flaws and missteps in life. We can heal, grow stronger, and make our lives more beautiful. So some people that have had issues in their relationship, we can repair love, as the slide suggests. And with that, I say, keep well, and I thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so very much, Mrs. Joseph. Certainly appreciate all that we have heard, and I know that we have heard a lot. I have been making some notes as we go along, as we went along rather, and very important to me was the conflict resolution and how we deal with the issues that we face. And tonight, if there are any questions or anything that you would like to probably ask, you can always put it in the chat. Even if we are not able to answer on air, we may be able to respond depending on the nature of the question. We may be able to respond appropriately. So, we are very grateful that you took the time to be with us tonight. We really appreciate all that we have heard, and we have heard quite a lot. I pray that we will actually do something about it and make a difference in our relationship, in our home. Do something about it. We have heard a lot. There were many suggestions and many things that we could do. I like the idea of that 10 Commandments. It's very, very interesting. And so we thank you for being a part of this session tonight. Thank you very much. It was nice having you. God bless you. And on behalf of the team that is here tonight, have a great night with God's blessings.